Hello and welcome to Cracking the Cryptic. So last time I was on, I said I'd have a talk about the World Sudoku Championship, which I attended. It was in Prague this year. And what they do in Prague is for the whole of the last week, there has been the World Sudoku Championship followed by the World Puzzle Championship. So the Sudoku Championship happens over Monday and Tuesday. Then there's a rest day and sightseeing day on Wednesday, and then the World Puzzle Championship, I think, goes over 3 days, Thursday to Saturday, and it's a bit longer. It's slightly older. This was the 13th World Sudoku Championship, but 27th World Puzzle Championship, something like that. As I say, the Puzzle Championship's been going for longer, and is kind of the more senior competition in a way. The Sudoku Championship's been added on. But I am afraid I only go for the Sudoku Championship. I don't take the time to do the puzzles. As much as I would enjoy them, I wouldn't finish anywhere that was useful, so it doesn't quite seem worth it to me. Anyway, how did I do in the World Sudoku Championship? Well, here's the scoring of, this is the top 24 after all the 10 rounds of competition before the playoffs. And as you can see, the top three were Kota Morinishi from Japan, who we've certainly mentioned on the blog, Tiit Vunk from Estonia, who's a fantastic competitor as well, Bastien Vialgemi from France, and then we have Jan Mrozovsky and Jakub Ondrushek before various Li Jianming and Tan Tan Dai from China, Tan Tan's a woman, which is very unusual, Sung Jae Kwak, Ken Endo of Japan, and Thomas Snyder, and we'll come back to those in a moment. So those 10 got in the playoffs, and I mean, very well done to them. I'll show you how I did. I'm on this, just sneaked in down here to the second page. Now, that's 52nd of the 250 or so who turned up. My official position is 40th. The official position is determined by those who got into their country's four-man A-team. And I was pretty happy with that, to be honest. Now, that gave me a score of 2,535, and that is a fraction over half the points that Kota Morinishi got. And I mean, that's a measure of how far away from the best I am. I think this was this is kind of the position I've been in the last couple of years. I'm pretty pleased with it. I mean, I started out finishing officially about 60th, so this is an improvement for me from when I began turning up to the World Sudoku Championship. I'm pretty pleased with that. I think my UK colleagues all came in very close together down here on the third page, not far behind me. Sam Kappelman-Lyons in his first ever tournament, his first ever face-to-face Sudoku tournament, fabulous to come in with 2,345 points in officially 49th. Tom Collier and Heather Golding neck and neck on 2,195 and 2,135. I mean, well done to them. The other thing you may notice is this column of the over 50s. Yet again, I came second in that competition for the fourth year. I'm still not entirely sure why the over 50s is a category at all, but congratulations to Michael Schmidt of Germany who won that. Quite frustratingly, what happened? The story of my competition was a great day one, which was rounds 1 to 7, and really they went as well as I could ever do. I think I was probably about 32nd officially overnight, something like that. But I had a terrible day two. Now on day two, there's round 8, round 9 and 10 in the morning. And then while those are being marked in the afternoon, we're doing the team rounds. The UK, I think, finished 16th, which was a bit disappointing. But as I say, those 3 rounds, 8, 9 and 10, happen on day two. And for me, those were very poor. Now, you expect to have a few mistakes. Mistakes are very costly, as you'll possibly remember. And if you look at the scoring of round 9, which I've picked out, that was one of the day 2 rounds, you can see that the puzzles vary in how much they're worth, but you have to get them complete and correct to score the points. So round 9, there are 13 puzzles. You have 55 minutes. And for most of us who aren't in the top few, you have to select the puzzles that will make the best use of that time. You're not going to get them all done. So you have to choose the ones you can do based on how many points per minute you can get out of them, really. And on day 1, this whole process went quite well. I think I was only marked wrong on one puzzle that I thought I'd done right. That's not a bad result for a whole day's puzzling. Several hours of puzzles there. And in terms of finishing the rounds, several times I finished a puzzle with less than a minute to spare, and you really feel you've maximized your time when you do that. The dreadful thing is to not quite finish a puzzle, or to be racing it so hard that you get it wrong and waste all the time, waste all the points that you thought you were gathering. So my effort at this round 9, on day 2, I was thinking, I'm doing quite well. I need to just score some points and do reasonably in these rounds to maintain my position. I think I was first in the over 50s overnight, first in the UK team. You know, those are kind of the things I'm noticing. And I wanted to kind of consolidate that, but I did very poorly. As I say, in every round on day 2, so round 8, round 9, round 10, I had a puzzle that somehow I got wrong. One of them was just 2 digits transposed, a 5 and a 6 in the wrong order. And here are a couple of the puzzles from round 9. In fact, the way I attacked this was quite strange. I had to go, I don't normally do this, I started at puzzle 2, which was a classic, and then just went through the other puzzles in order, because they're all reasonably standard variations down to number 9, variations one's seen before. And therefore I thought, well, those are things I could probably really have a go at, and I'm slightly used to the way they work, so that might go well. So in fact, they went okay, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I scored points for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. But then puzzle 8, Duodoku, which I thought I was fine at. That's this one here. And here's the script I got back, worth 65 points. So I've been kind of working up during the round to the big pointers, or big for me. And they've highlighted here that I've got a 2 and a 2 in the same column. You could also see that I've got a 2 and a 2 in the same dotted line box. The way this puzzle works is there are 2 overlapping grids, one marked by the thick lines with the boxes, and one whose boxes are marked in the dotted lines. And you kind of have to, it is a bit of a double vision puzzle, which is why it's called Duodoku. You have to kind of be able to see both. And I've been fine at these before, but I obviously got something wrong. In fact, when I work it out, I think I can tell that the only digits I got wrong were this 3 and 5 in row, let's call it row 7 there. This 2 and 3 in row 8, and this 5 and 2 in row 9. If they were all transposed, so if I'd written them as 5, 3, 3, 2, 2, 5, I'd have got this puzzle right. That would be another 65 points. And when you bear in mind, I think I was only 105 points off winning the over 50s, that's quite a lot. So, don't know quite how I made this error, as certainly I remember that I finished the bottom of the puzzle last, so it was towards the end where you have to be a bit more careful to finish off, because you're racing and you think it's so important. And maybe that wouldn't have mattered to me too much. I think I left myself about 10 and a half minutes, and I thought, well, that ought to be enough for the next puzzle on, which was this puzzle called Disparity. Now, it's got irregular shaped boxes, so it's like an irregular Sudoku. But the other intriguing constraint is that every 2 adjacent cells from different regions have a different parity, i.e. there's 1 odd and 1 even digit. So up here, these 2 cells have to be 1 odd and 1 even. These 2 have to be 1 odd and 1 even. These 2 have to be 1 odd and 1 even. So then, in fact, this kind of became a puzzle. At first, you could do very little. There were very few givens, as you can see. But once you work out which cells are odd and which cells are even, which takes quite a while, then it becomes more manageable. And you can see my notation: D for odd and E for even. And then, there's even notes beside the grid where I'd kind of worked out these three were two evens and an odd, although I wasn't sure in what order. And it was difficult, and I was working through, and it was going okay, but then the last little bit didn't come quite as quickly as I needed. 75 points, huge puzzle for me. I'm not doing many 75 pointers in the whole competition. And as the time was ticking down, you can see how close I got here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cells not filled in. And that, at the speed I'm going, by the time I'm finishing, that's less than 10 seconds, maybe 5 seconds of time, but the time ran out and I couldn't finish it off. And that's incredibly frustrating. It's poor time management. I absolutely grant that. But I think this puzzle is right, apart from these remaining cells, which would obviously have to be 1, and then given even odd 2, 9, 9, 2. And that would have taken, as I say, about 5 seconds to finish off and got me another 75 points. Would have been a big swing for me. It's those sorts of things that are really cruel. So you get one marked wrong, one you don't finish, and the score's dreadful compared to what you could have got. Now, what I probably should have done is this next puzzle. It's called diagonally consecutive, in fact, for 85 points. And all pairs of consecutive digits that are in the cells sharing a corner are marked with a grey line. I think next time I do a video for you, I'll have a go at this and see if it works out a bit quicker than the disparity puzzle would have done, just to see how I do. Do feel free to have your own go at it before I make that video, but it's quite an interesting one. In fact, I think unlike the example puzzle, there's only 4 marked lines, and the really key part of the constraint is that all pairs of consecutive digits sharing a corner are marked with a grey line. So no little diagonals together that don't have the marked line can have consecutive digits, and that must be very helpful, I imagine. So, as I say, I'll have a go at that next time. My heartiest congratulations go to Kota and Teat, frankly, who very nearly won. And just going back to the results. As I say, the top 10 go into playoffs. Now, what happens is they take numbers 7 to 10, they allocate some time differentials based on their scores, and then they race over a further 4 puzzles, I think. And then whoever wins that race goes in with numbers 4, 5, and 6 to the second playoff. They race over 5 puzzles, and whoever wins that goes into the final playoff, which takes place with numbers 1, 2, and 3. I think, in fact, Jakub Ondrushek joined them for the final, and that final is viewable. If you go to the Halas, spelled like this, video channel, YouTube channel, they have videos of the finals of the Sudoku Championship playoff and the Puzzle Championship playoff, which we'll probably talk about at some other point. What actually happened, and don't listen to this if you want to watch it, it's well worth 30 minutes of your time at some point. It's a very interesting view. You get reasonable close-ups sometimes of the puzzles so you can see how those 4 competitors are doing. But what actually happened, as I say, spoiler alert here, is the way the rules work, whoever's finished the most puzzles in the time correctly will win. If there's a tie on that, whoever's finished them fastest will win. And therefore, if you finish all the puzzles in the time correctly and you're the first finisher, you win. If you finish a puzzle incorrectly, the marker gives it back to you after a minute. Otherwise, the marker will give you the new puzzle after a minute. So there's 35 minutes. I think it was 6 puzzles. Obviously, there'll be a maximum of 5 minutes of downtime when you're not solving. So the competitors are effectively getting 30 minutes to solve those 6 puzzles, but they were really hard. And the way it worked out was, I think, after 4 puzzles, Teet had finished first, Bastian second, and Kota third. But after 5 puzzles, Kota had got back in the lead after a difficult puzzle 4. Bastian was second, and then Teet finished. They were all fairly close together, so if either Teet or Bastian could finish the last puzzle in the 5 minutes or less they had first, they would win. And the way it went down, I think Kota got stuck and kind of gave up with about a minute to go. Not completely gave up, but it was clear he wouldn't finish. Whereas Teet was just about in range, and as the time ticked down, Teet was very nearly finishing. I don't know whether he'd had kind of a guess in the last minute and a half to try and get a finish or not. It would be quite interesting to analyse the video. I haven't done that yet, but it was incredibly exciting to watch on the video. And Teet very nearly won. He was sitting a couple of seats away from me. He's a lovely guy, as is Kota, frankly. And, you know, it was very hard to know who to support, but an incredibly close final, and he will feel very gutted to have been ahead after puzzle 4, not to have quite won when he had a real chance at it. But I think he will win one day. But instead, Kota retained his title. My absolute congratulations to him. These guys are working at a level I don't really understand, and I'm incredibly impressed by them. So that's my report of the World Sudoku Championship. As I say, next time I'll probably have a go at that diagonally consecutive puzzle. We'll see how we do. And thanks very much for watching. Hope to see you again for that video on cracking the cryptic. Bye for now.